engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Minot State Professional Communications Department proudly brings to you the Striha Sports Podcast with your host, Parker Striha. Hello, and welcome back to the Striha Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Parker Striha, and on today's episode, I'm going to be talking to another one of the newest members of the Minot State football coaching staff. I'm by no means professional, but I do love talking about sports, so thank you for joining me. He is a former collegiate safety with over a decade of coaching experience. He is also one of the newest additions to the Minot State football coaching staff. Today, I am joined by Mr. Michael Bruno. Thank you for joining me. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Parker. Thanks for having me on today.
Thanks for having the time to come on. So with every interview, I have 5 quick get-to-know-you questions just to ease nerves. So we'll just jump right in with number 1. What is your favorite type of pizza?
Oh, so I'm from the New York City area, and obviously we're very brash about this. We think we have the best pizza in the country, if not maybe the world. But for me, I love just a nice, easy cheese slice, or if I'm going to add toppings, mushrooms is my number 1. And then if I'm back home, there's a place they call it Planet Pizza. Not the same Planet Pizza we have out here in Minot, but it's another Planet Pizza. They make a great chicken cutlet pizza slice, which is great with ranch dipping sauce. For me, that's my go-to whenever I'm back on the East Coast.
Nice. I would definitely like to try a different version of the Planet Pizza. So number 2, what is your favorite NFL team? And if you don't have one, what is your favorite overall sports team?
Yeah. So I'm a Jets fan. My whole family is all Patriot fans. They're from the Boston area, and I became a Jets fan when I was that young age when you figure out your sports teams. I was living with my cousin for that year, and he's from Long Island, so he was a Jets fan. I just followed suit, and my dad hates my cousin ever since because of that.
You looking forward to potentially getting Aaron Rodgers on the team?
Absolutely. We need to just keep going, take that step for the Super Bowl.
I mean, I'm a Green Bay fan, so I'm okay with giving you guys Aaron Rodgers. I'm kind of over this whole ordeal. I just kind of want it over with. But with number 3, if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a real good one, superpowers. So I don't watch a whole lot of the hero movies, so I don't know a lot of the superpowers, but I think the ability to fly for me would be the best. That'd be easy for me to travel to go see a lot of people too, on top of everything.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a really good one. No, can't hate about being able to travel wherever or whenever you want at a really fast rate. Number 4, this has kind of been a one-sided question so far with the coaches. Are you Team LeBron James or Team Michael Jordan?
Oh, Michael Jordan's not even close. Not even close for me. I grew up in the Jordan era. I played basketball. I was fortunate enough to have a few schools ask me to come play for them in college. But for me, it's Michael Jordan all day. The competitiveness that he has, the clutchness is so it's one-sided for me in that part. I think LeBron's an all-timer, though. Don't get me wrong, but Jordan is by far number 1.
Yeah, I mean, I don't personally think there's a wrong answer to that, but it has been. I believe Michael Jordan has been the answer for every one of those, and I mean, I can't argue with it. And number 5, what is your favorite song?
So you've been around me at practices. You've seen, especially walkthrough days, I'm always starting humming a lot of different songs. So for me, I don't have one particular song, because I forget who sings every song and what they're named. But I'm a huge fan of all music, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm the same way. I do have a couple songs that are kind of up there for me, but I mean, you can't go wrong with music in general. But so to get into the quote-unquote real questions, I understand you started coaching in 2009 at, I believe it's pronounced Worcester Poly? Worcester Poly.
Yep.
Could you kind of give me a rundown of your coaching stops from then until now here at Minot State?
Yep. So I was fortunate when I got done with college. I was able to start right away. Ed Zaloom was the head coach at WPI, which is Worcester Polytech in Massachusetts. It's a D3 engineering school. I interviewed for an assistant O-line job at the time, and I must have done well enough for him that he actually hired me to be the running backs coach. So I was fortunate enough to be the running backs coach that year. Coach Zaloom then retired. Coach Robertson came in to be the head coach, and I got moved to becoming the D-line coach and the special teams coordinator following that. And that was a great learning experience for me to learn to coach the D-line for the year. I had a ton of special teams experience from playing and then also that first year, but doing the D-line was real new for me, which was great. And then I got fortunate. Dartmouth College had an opening for a defensive assistant, video coordinator, assistant DFO, and I jumped on that, and I took that job. And then that I was up there for 5 years. I moved up after the first season to becoming the nickels, safeties, and assistant special teams coach. I did that for my remaining 4 years. I wanted to coach more. I knew my role was going to be limited there if I stayed in that. So that's why I made the personal decision to leave. I went and took a GA job down at Mississippi State with Coach Sermon and Dan Mullen. I was doing all 4 linebacker spots for Coach Sermon, and then Coach Sermon left after that season, went to University of Louisville. He brought me with him, and I worked with the outside linebackers and linebackers there with him and Coach Petrino. After one season there, Coach Sermon got offered a great position at Cal for him and his family, and he went there, and I followed him, working with all 4 linebackers spots again in the different defenses while I was out there with him. And then last season I left. I wanted to kind of get out a little bit on my own. Went with Coach Hayward, who took the defensive coordinator job at UNLV, and I was fortunate enough to interview and get the inside linebackers job, and really help coach the entire defensive front with Coach Hayward.
Nice. And now you're, of course, at Minot State as the defensive coordinator and linebackers coach. And I don't think there's a way to underestimate how important and crucial that Power 5 experience has to be, especially as a younger coach as you were getting into that and now being at a smaller school in Minot State, obviously. But I also saw that you were a former college safety. Could you talk me through your playing career and how that ultimately led into you becoming a coach?
So I made the transition from a strong safety in high school to a free safety in college, which usually does not normally happen. Usually you move closer to the box than further away, or to the ball, I should say. But we were in a more of a kind of what Virginia Tech ran for all those years, with the 4-4, 4-2-5-ish with a robber safety. And so that was the safety position I had played in a lot there. And I was fortunate enough, I got my first playing time as a sophomore. So I traveled as a freshman, sat on the bus, sat on the bench, didn't play, but I was around everything and learning everything. And then my sophomore year is when I finally started getting playing time with the defense. And then junior year, I got hurt, unfortunately, in the third game of the season, I believe it was, where I had a severe high ankle sprain where I basically broke my ankle. Came back the last 2 games of the season, and then the senior year I had a really good statistical senior season for us on defense.
Nice. It seems like you and Coach Gurnett both have had some pretty big injuries in college, unfortunately. But I believe he said it was his knee. But, I mean, any leg injury or anything is going to – I can't imagine how that would mentally and also physically just kind of alter how you kind of look at or play the game.
Yeah, for me, it really – that whole 2 months of being in a cast on crutches at practice was really hard a little bit. Just knowing you can't do anything. So I was trying to rush myself back, and then against one of our bigger rivals was Hobart College, and I tried to play that game, and the coaches had the wise decision. They didn't let me play because they could see I couldn't run around it well enough to cover a guy and be on the field for that type of game. So they held me out for one more game, and then I was fortunate enough to come back the last 2 games of the season in a limited role, but it's still a role to help us win games.
Yeah, awesome. So when did your love for coaching start? Is that something you saw yourself doing as you grew up, or is this like, okay, my playing career is ending soon, unfortunately, but I think I could really get into coaching and be good at it?
So with me, I actually have a notebook from when I was in, I think it was 4th grade. It's an old Jacksonville Jaguar notebook that used to be able to buy at like CVS or Office Max when the football season started. And it's interesting. I've kept that notebook with me, and there's all these most random football plays that do not make any sense, but in my mind, they always felt like they were going to score touchdowns. So if you ask my parents, that's probably when they thought I've had that love to start coaching. If you asked any of my coaches in high school and college, they would have said they thought I was right away a coach, just the way I was always watching film and studying and knowing things. But for me, I actually wasn't going to get into coaching right away. I was going to go work for the government. I had done a bunch of internships with my congressman, with some government agencies, where I was going to go work for my congressman after I was done with college. And then, unfortunately for him, and maybe it's really fortunate for me, he lost re-election my senior year. So I was that whole job I had lined up after my summer internship got washed out. So I'm sitting there. It's end of my fall semester. I'm thinking, all right, what am I going to do? So I'm thinking, all right, maybe one of my close friends had tried to talk me into joining either the FBI or the U.S. Marshal's office, because that's what he had been doing, and he really enjoyed it. And there was still that itch in me that wanted to be coaching. So I thought, well, let me get into coaching for a season, see how it is, see if I truly love it. If I do, I'll keep it going. If not, I'll know game is past, and I'll move on. And my college coaches tried to talk me out of it. They didn't think, they were like, where did this come from? And then after I sat down for 30 seconds with them and told them why, they immediately were making phone calls to help me out. So that's when it kicked in, and I haven't regretted a single day of work ever since.
It's crazy how a little event like that can alter everything in the future. And I mean, now you're doing something I believe you love, Coach, and I mean, I can see your intensity and your passion for the game at practices this spring, and I think it's awesome. But how have you been enjoying Minot so far? I mean, you've been here since early spring, late winter, I'm assuming, when Coach Shields was hired. But yeah, how have you been enjoying Minot?
Minot's been actually really exciting for me. I haven't lived in a smaller town. I shouldn't say this is a smaller town. There's 50,000 people here. But I haven't been in a more of the woodsy type atmosphere in 7-8 years now, since when I was at Dartmouth. And I really enjoyed my time up at Dartmouth, and that's a small college town. This is a college town, but it's not a small college town because you have 50,000 people here. You have the Air Force Base, you have the oil mills, you have the hospital. There's a lot going on here. So for me, I've enjoyed just being able to go out and explore and find different things to do. Like the other day, myself and the defense of staff and the defensive players and some of the offensive guys, we all went to the baseball game. We had a blast for watching Minot State play baseball. I'd driven past Corbett Field a bunch of times and had no clue that I was there. Mm-hmm. And then I'm excited this spring to go to the zoo. Mm-hmm. And I want to see these tigers and all these other animals I keep driving by and seeing. So there's so much to do up here and explore. And for me, I'm a big paddleboard guy. So there's a bunch of lakes. Mm-hmm. I can't wait to go explore this summer out here.
Yeah, there's definitely a bunch of lakes around here for sure. I mean, I've never really gotten into paddleboarding, but I mean, my family does have some stuff down on the lake, so I'm always down there. But it's definitely fun, and I will suggest the zoo also. I know you said you're excited for that. And I mean, Minot Zoo I think it's awesome for considering the city size to have a zoo that nice. I think is really awesome. And I mean, Bismarck also has one, but we don't talk about Bismarck with you, Mary, and those guys down there. But
nope. School down south, nope.
Can't talk to them. So as someone with extensive Power 5 experience, how have you been able to use the experiences and knowledge that you've gained from those schools as you've progressed as a coach and as you've gotten here at Minot State?
So I was very fortunate when I was at those schools. I was around some really great football minds. Coach Mullen, Coach Bruno were the head coaches, and Coach Wilcox at Cal, where I was able to I tried to be a sponge as much as I could and just soak in and take as much knowledge of how they handled certain situations, how they prepared for games, how they looked at film, how they looked at things at practice. So for me, that's what I've been trying to do, is take how they took all their stuff and how they applied everything, and I'm trying to mold it all together. And so for me, that's one of the big things I've been trying to do since I've been I was fortunate enough to be at a bunch of Power 5 schools. It's just how we look at things, how we coach things, how we teach things is a big thing for me.
Yeah. So this is kind of something I've always wondered as I've gotten more and more into sports, and football especially as my main thing. But how do you build a defensive scheme, and what kind of goes into that?
So the way to build a defensive scheme, there's a few different ways, I think. But I think the main one is you need to know what you have for your talent. Mm-hmm. You can't just fit a square into a round hole. So for me, it's what type of players do we have here? What type of players are we recruiting here? And then what best fits their abilities? And I think that's the best thing. And then after you figure out those questions, then I think you can build your type of scheme to best maximize their talent and abilities. And that's what we're trying to do here with everything.
Yeah, I guess I've just never really been sure if it's more of a scheme and you match the players to it, or if it's the players and you kind of match the scheme to it. But that makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, after years of being an assistant or primarily a position coach on the defensive side of the ball, how does it feel to be the guy on that side as you are in your first stint as a defensive coordinator?
So I'm very excited about this opportunity. That was one of the big reasons why I did take it with Coach Shields. I had some other opportunities to still be the assistant or in the position coaches at other levels, but in schools. But for me, I was very excited. I felt I was ready to coach the whole defense and lead the whole defensive unit and players. And so I'm extremely excited about it. I've taken a lot of notes over the years from Coach Dobes when I was at Dartmouth working with him, and then same thing with Coach Sermon and Coach DeRuiter. Those are three guys I've leaned on a lot. I've asked a lot of questions over the years on how have you taught this, or how would you do this? What's the best answer for this in your opinion? And then I've also talked to a lot of my friends that have been coordinators and asked them whether they were at Division III schools or FBS schools. On top of it, just what's the best way to do things. And for me, this is a really exciting opportunity here to do something really special with a unique set of guys here, which I'm excited about.
Absolutely. And I mean, I can't imagine how important that relationship with Coach Shields was in this. Was it just last year was last year at UNLV your guys' only year coaching together, or did you have experience with him prior to that?
So I never met Coach Shields before I started working at UNLV. I get from talking to each other now over the year, we know people, we knew enough similar people, but I had never met him once a day in my life. And then I'm in the building there, we're talking maybe 5 minutes a day. That's it. That would be the only time we would interact, because he was working more with the offensive side of the ball, and I was obviously with the defensive side. So I'd come in, I'd talk to him for a few minutes, shoot the breeze, just catch up, make a few jokes, and then I'd be gone for the rest of the day. But that's how we started building our relationship.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, it's crazy to look at how the relationship started, like you just said, and now he's the head coach and you're his defensive coordinator. I believe how that's a crazy expansion in only a year or so of knowing each other, just over a year, I'd say. But looking at your linebacker group as a whole, I mean, I've been out there for most of the practices this spring. There is a lot of potential just waiting to be unleashed, in my opinion. How do you look to mold and teach these young men so they can be key contributors whenever their number is called upon?
For me, I'm a big believer on developing and teaching the fundamentals. So you've witnessed a lot of the drills we do. There's not a lot of scheme development there. It's more technique and fundamentals on just how we operate and do that. So that's for me the big way I want to unleash guys with it, is keep it very simple for them, and then at the same time make sure they can maximize the fundamentals, whether it's tackling, getting off blocks, pursuing, and being in coverage. So for me, it's all about mastering the fundamentals, and that's going to lead us to have success on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, despite only your one season at Mississippi State, you obviously had the opportunity to work with some pretty big names in coaching. I know you mentioned Dan Mullen, who ultimately went on to spend some time at Florida, where he ended up leading them to an SEC championship game. And then you also worked with, I mean, I don't know how close you worked with him, but Brian Johnson, who is now the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. Were you able to work closely with either of those gentlemen? And I mean, if so, how did those relationships help you as a relatively young coach at that time?
So I was fortunate enough with Coach Mullen. We met with him basically every day, just because he was a pretty good hands-on, wanted to know what we were doing on defense, and he's the CEO. So he's in charge of everything. So it was good for me to hear him ask questions about, hey, what are we teaching here? How are we teaching this? Are we all on the same page? What's this? And then he would have some ideas that he has had over years or conversations with some of his friends that he would bring to the table also, which were very good too. So that was a great just to learn about his mind and how it worked a little bit, and the thought process from a head coach who's mainly an offensive head coach, but he's got enough knowledge about the defense where he can be a key contributor too. And then with Coach Johnson, I interacted with him almost the same as I would say with Coach Shields, a few minutes every day, just talking with them, and we built a good relationship off that. But I'm very excited for him and what he's doing in the NFL right now. He's doing a great job.
Yeah. So, I mean, these next two questions are kind of similar, but they're things looking at your coaching history that I was kind of curious about. So, like I said, at your time at Mississippi State, there was an extremely talented future NFL defensive lineman who was a freshman that year. I'm, of course, talking about Jeffery Simmons. I don't really know how widely regarded or how highly regarded he was coming into Mississippi State, but is now one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL, and also just signed one of the biggest contracts for a defensive tackle in NFL history. So what was it like being able to coach someone like Jeffery Simmons, who is now, like I said, just a monster?
So Jeffrey was a very decorated kid coming out of high school. I think he was a consensus 5-star recruit that we were very fortunate enough to get. They had signed and got him committed before I got there, because I got hired about a few weeks before spring ball even began down there. So, but he showed up in the summer, and his work ethic was what really separated him. He would always push himself beyond what the rep number was or what the distance was, and he would drive to be perfect on every rep. And that's one of the big things. It's really separated his game, is his desire to be a great player with everything. And he was a great kid to be around for that 1 year I was there with him. He cared about the kids on the team and the community a lot, which was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely see all of that with him showing now as he's one of the best players, in my opinion, in the NFL, one of my favorites overall. I'm a sucker for solid or really good defensive linemen, and I mean, he's, like I said, one of the best, and I'm sure that's something now that you can kind of look back and say, wow, I can't believe I mean, that's a pretty big guy to coach, whether you were every day, however often you were actually with him. But then also I saw your timeline for coaching lined up with you being at Louisville during Lamar Jackson's last season. What was it like being able to witness a player of that caliber in person and also coach against him in practice? Because he's a freak.
So Coach Petrino always had a great line to both myself and Coach Sermon. Do not scheme for Lamar. Just run your defense. You're not going to play anyone who's going to be like him. And it's true. Lamar was extremely talented, extremely hard worker, and he brought every rep was a full speed rep for him. He did some things running on the field that I don't think I'll ever see again. Both him and Jair were two competitive guys that I loved to be around at practices that whole year there.
Yeah, I completely forgot about Jair, and I'm a Green Bay fan, so he's also one of my favorite guys in the league. And I'm sure having a player like him on that defense didn't hurt as a coach. Right?
No, he made us a lot better as coaches. Just his ability to be out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of looking back now, realizing the amount of first-round picks or just overall NFL players that you've been able to coach in any capacity is awesome. I don't know personally a lot of other guys that have had that experience, and I'm sure that's kind of something you can look back on and kind of use as you progress as a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've been fortunate enough. At Cal, I coached at least 6. I had my hands around working with guys in some capacity. At least 6 to 8 guys that are in the NFL right now on defense alone, and then obviously at Louisville with a bunch of different guys, and same thing with Mississippi State. And to be honest with you, even Dartmouth. Our corner Vernon Harris was with the Chiefs for a long time. Charlie Miller played with the Jaguars, so that I've been fortunate. I had a bunch of DBs, and Falerno Rimolade right now is the highest paid defensive end up in the CFL that I was able to work with and have a great influence with.
Yeah, so you definitely have a lot of feathers, so to say, that you can hang in your cap with players. But, I mean, as a coach and leader on this Minot State football team, how important is it for you to not only help these young men become better football players, but also just better people in general off the field?
Yeah, I would say that's more important, the latter part, than the football part. Obviously, we get judged by wins and losses and what we do on the field, but having that impact with these guys goes a lot further than just the wins and losses. And that's why the relationships that we build during this time period really last a lot longer. That's why, like, I mentioned some of those guys at Dartmouth just now. I still talk to those guys all the time. Like, they have group chats that they have me in with all the DBs from when I was there. Or same thing at Cal, I still chat with a bunch of the guys. I was on the phone with Coyne about a month ago asking him about some stuff. And I haven't seen Coyne in 2 years now, but I know he's doing well. He's with the Bears right now. Same thing with AJ last year. Like, AJ's going through his draft process right now, but me and him still managed to shoot each other messages, call each other just to check in, see how we're doing, and I'm excited for him for 2 weeks from now.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of been a very similar response for most of the coaches, is it's more important for these players to be better people than you handle that, and then you can handle the football afterwards. Because, like, for most kids, you're not going to be a football player forever. So, I mean, the stuff that you learn to be a better person is ultimately just more important. But do you have any goals for this upcoming season? Like, whether that be personal goals or goals that pertain to the team or your linebackers or anything like that?
You know, I haven't put a hard number on any particular goal yet. For us, it's a mentality. I know Coach Shields has his waddle with the whole program, and we talk about that all the time. We talk about our haste mentality on defense, and that's what I want us to be able to demonstrate. Coming out, playing fast, playing physical, and having that urgency of movement with everything we do with our haste. So for us, that's my goal is to get that fully put in with the defense and let it rip, and then we'll talk about what our goals are for each week and each game later on. But right now, it's just building the foundation right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that is extremely important. You need that foundation before you can get to a lot of those later steps. But so at the time of recording this, the 2023 spring game is this Saturday at 10:30 at Herb Parker Stadium. How important do you think that game is, not only for you as a coach or a new coach for this team, but for all of these players who are still learning a whole new playbook on both sides of the ball?
I think it's great for us because it's another opportunity to go out and get better and develop. And that's the biggest thing about it. This is a full-speed day for us. It's a scrimmage, right? It's our spring game. So for us, it's an unbelievable opportunity to get out there, play fast, pin our ears back. If we make a mistake, we can learn from it, and it's a practice environment, and hopefully we don't make that same mistake twice, but it's a great opportunity to keep developing right now.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said earlier, I've been at most of the practices, and I'm personally really excited to watch these guys go out there and play at full speed. Obviously not trying to hurt each other or stuff like that, but I think it'll be really exciting to watch these guys utilizing their new playbooks and schemes and stuff to go against each other. But on a similar note, MSU football is hosting their Junior Day event this Friday. Could you kind of tell me a little bit more about that event and what can be expected of it?
Yeah, we got a great turnout we're anticipating right now. I'm really excited about the kids that are coming from all over the country, to be honest with you. I know we've hammered the North Dakota and the local area too, and we've been fortunate some kids from that area are also going to be coming with their families. So I'm really excited to meet everybody up here and show off our new our new football program, to be honest with you, and really get a chance to show the campus and talk about our academics, talk about and walk around campus with everybody, have a little talk about our development plans with the guys. It's going to be a real fun experience for everybody, and I'm really excited for the turnout we got coming.
Yeah, and this is kind of on a similar note of that. For any recruits, like high school guys or guys in the transfer portal at the time that might watch this video, what is one message you'd like to give them about not only Minot State, but Minot State football as a program?
That this is going to be, you're going to have an opportunity to do something really special with a special group of guys that has not been done here before. And so that's one of the big things I'm really excited about the group we have here and the kids that we're bringing in with the kids that we have signed and the kids that we hopefully can sign in the future here is to be out do things that are really special that with a special group of young men.
Yeah, and this is last question. But speaking of recruits and transfer guys, where can they find you specifically if they wanted to reach out?
So for me, I'm on Twitter, Coach_Mike Bruno. That's the easiest way to find me here. And obviously, we're going through the day during the workday a lot. So if I'm not watching the film or scripting for practice, usually I'm always right on my phone, watching recruits' films and getting back with DMs. That's the easiest and fastest way to get a hold of me.
Okay, absolutely. So once again, I would just like to thank you for coming on my podcast today and taking time out of your busy day and busy schedule to meet with me. Is there anything else you would like to say or add before we send it off?
I'm just really happy to be here. I know this community has been very welcoming to us as the new staff and me personally, and I really enjoy being up here and can't wait to meet everyone at the spring game on Saturday and throughout the summer as we get ready for week 1 in August. All right? Go Beavs.
Perfect. Thank you. Once again, this has been the Striha Sports Podcast with guest Mike Bruno, new defensive coordinator for MSU football. That is all I have for you guys today. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you all next time. Peace.